ncIMPACT is made possible by funding from Civic Federal Credit Union and is a Public Media North Carolina production in association with the University of North Carolina School of Government.
Housing rental rates are increasingly unaffordable for many teachers across our state. Some communities are getting creative with developing special affordable housing. This is ncIMPACT. I'm Anita Brown-Graham. Many school districts struggle to recruit and retain teachers. This is especially true in communities with high housing costs. Many teachers are forced to leave their teaching positions because they can't afford to live where they teach. But in Dare County, community leaders have built affordable housing complexes, especially for teachers. ncIMPACT's David Hurst looks at the impact of how these collaborations have helped Dare County attract and keep quality teachers.
All right, so when we're looking at our worksheets, our Atlas worksheets, looking at the timeline,
When Bruce Gemmell was in high school, he had several social studies teachers who opened his eyes to his passion for history.
Austin. Nile River, very good.
Now the middle school teacher works to share this passion with his students.
As soon as I got into the classroom for the first time in the role of teacher, I knew that this was it. This was my passion, this was my calling, and I've been doing it ever since.
After graduating college, he went to work at a middle school in Perquimans County.
And I was living on my own for the first time. I was really far away from home, and it was just learning how to manage the accounts, manage the bills. Financially, the first 2 years, it was rough. There were moments definitely that you're worried about meeting your bills for the month. All right, so looking at the top of our worksheet with the timeline.
He taught 8th grade history there for 6 years. At the time, all he could afford was a small studio apartment.
I remember my family would come to visit me, my parents would come to visit me, and it was one room, so they were on an air mattress right next to my bed. We're all crammed in there. It was like sleeping in a tent almost.
Several years later, his dream job opened up in Dare County. First Flight Middle School was looking for a social studies teacher who could also serve as the athletic director. He knew cost of living was high in the Outer Banks, so he did not take the position seriously until he learned there was a teacher housing program.
I had to make it very clear to them that in order for me to be able to move out here and settle out here, I would need to be in that type of situation just financially because the housing out here is astronomically high compared to a teacher's salary.
He took the job and moved into Run Hill Ridge, a 24-unit complex in Kill Devil Hills specifically for teachers. The 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit rents for $850 a month.
So now when my family comes to visit, they have their own space. It's pretty great. They're visiting a lot more because of that.
What is this word? See.
Dozens of teachers across the county take advantage of the program. There are 2 complexes, one in Kill Devil Hills and another in Buxton.
Let's do sleek. Sleek.
Jamie Hall is a first grade teacher at Manual Elementary. She's lived in the Kill Devil Hills complex for 2 years.
When I saw an environment where there's only teachers or people working for the school district, it just makes you feel secure, like you can identify with other people who live there, and I just think it's a wonderful chance for us all to live together.
Good job. Go ahead back to the beginning and read it again.
Hall moved to North Carolina after teaching in Spain and Costa Rica for a couple years.
A little bit smaller, write the word C, a little bit smaller.
When looking for an apartment in Dare County, she found very few rentals, and the ones she did find were out of her price range.
Since I moved directly from Costa Rica to North Carolina, it was hard just to have enough money to get started financially, to find a place and then save money and be able to pay a deposit. And so coming here and having, subsidized housing, that really helped us get started.
The Outer Banks is home to some of the most expensive housing and rental costs in the state. The median property value in Dare County is $285,000. That's significantly higher than the state average. The school district has faced issues attracting and keeping teachers as a result of the high cost of living.
So historically, prior to 2008, the Education Foundation went to the school system and asked them what their biggest area of need was. If there was going to be one wildly important goal that the foundation could get behind, what might it look like? And there were some key leaders in the school system who said recruitment was very difficult.
What was he not going to let go of?
So the school district partnered with the Dare Education Foundation and they came up with the teacher housing program. The program is funded by the State Employees Credit Union. The SECU provides interest-free loans that community partners pay back through the rent earned by the housing complexes.
The teacher housing program has been a tool for us to be able to get teachers to move here and to work for us and not have to have the burden of searching for housing be something that is on the forefront. We want teachers to be thinking about the first day of their classroom, not where they're going to live.
Somebody helped you out? What are percents always out of? 100, so you got it.
Rebecca Hinkle teaches middle school math at Cape Hatteras Secondary School.
45.
She moved into the teacher housing complex in Buxton 2 years ago.
Y'all ready? Okay, so Coach Thomas.
Aside from the cost, her favorite part about her apartment complex is the sense of community. She and her neighbors even took in other teachers after thousands of homes flooded and lost power during Hurricane Dorian last year.
One of my first days here, when I we had professional development here at the school, one of the fellow teachers came up and she was like, "Welcome to the family." And I thought, okay, what are these people talking about? But it is true. It's a very family atmosphere. Everybody takes you in. If you're not feeling well, they'll bring you food. So it was nice. And so when some natural disaster like that is approaching and on the way, you kind of do the same for others and take them in.
Remember, this is a percent. What are percents always out of?
Hinkle says moving into teacher housing played a big role in convincing her to leave her job in High Point and come to the Outer Banks.
I think we all wish that we got paid more, of course, but you know when you get into this profession that it is what it is. We're not in it for the money, clearly. You know, you do have to take on summer jobs and odds and ends here and there. It's definitely hard for friends of mine who have families and have kids. That's a hard thing to make work month to month, but you do. We're human. You make it work, and you know, you have people and family and friends who help out when you need to.
And I'm helping her buy it.
It's stories like these that make community and school leaders hopeful they'll be able to expand the program and eventually add more teacher housing.
We believe that having high quality education, and that starts with high quality educators, is a huge contributing factor to the quality of life here. And so by offering an opportunity for educators to come and stay and be a part of our school system, we're affecting all sectors of the community. And so we care about our schools and we care about what's happening with our students, and that all starts with who's in the classroom.
When I got filmed.
And it's given teachers like Gemmel the opportunity to live in a desirable beach community and to save money for the first time since becoming a teacher.
When I came down here and I saw how hard it could be for teachers in this state overall, to know that this county is offering a housing situation of all things is just mind-blowing in the best way.
It's great to be here with Jayma Campbell, Senior Vice President of the State Employees Credit Union and Executive Director of their foundation. Jayma, how did the State Employees Credit Union get interested in the issue of teacher housing?
Well, that's actually an interesting question. We actually heard from a group of our members in Hertford County over 10 years ago. They actually came to us and said, we have a lack of housing here in Hertford County. They were recruiting a lot of folks from out of the area. They were getting there and they had nowhere to live. And so they were concerned about recruitment and teacher retention. So they came to us with the idea of a teacherage or some type of housing for teachers. So we kind of on the fly developed this concept of affordable housing, brought in some housing partners to work with us on a design, and created a 24-unit apartment complex for teachers and for some other state employees as well.
I have never met a school superintendent in North Carolina who hasn't said, I wish I could do a better job with recruitment. I wish I could do a better job with retention. How many of these projects have you done?
Gosh, we've also worked in Hope County and in Buncombe County to date. We would love to do more of these projects, but I think one of the issues, our foundation provides a 0% loan for 15 years. So a lot of these folks still need to come to the table with some money at hand. And they also need to have a lot of support from the community. That, I think, is the big picture, the big issue that a lot of folks deal with, is bringing all the right partners together to manage this.
Say a bit more about the community support. Why is that important?
Well, I think it's very important to have the community support from the school district, because they need to be the ones who are advertising and marketing this housing, getting people excited about the opportunity to live in this housing. And then you also need housing partners to come in and manage these properties. One of the things that we do differently now than we did when we worked with the original folks in Hertford and Dare is we actually now require people to come to us with letters of interest with housing partners involved, so people who've managed housing. So over the years, we've learned a little bit more what works and all the partners that need to come together. So if you look, for instance, at our Buncombe County project, we have Asheville City Schools, we have Buncombe County Schools who are partners, but also Eblen Charities, that is a local charity that had experience in managing housing. And so bringing all those folks together, and certainly others from the community, to help with fundraising, because they also had to have some money down, but they also have to fundraise every year to subsidize this housing.
Many say the Outer Banks is more than just a tourist destination. For some, it's a pretty nice place to live.
Many of our employees have vacationed here and said, I've always wanted to live at the Outer Banks. And that's great, but vacationing here is one thing and living here is another.
Most of the employees at Outer Banks Hospital come from all over the country to live in this coastal community.
The majority of our recruitment for those type of positions, which are a large majority for us, are from other states. And so we recruit from Virginia, from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, all of them. We have employees from all of those states.
However, once these healthcare workers move here, they often face the same problem as teachers, a lack of affordable housing.
We've gone through the whole process. They've accepted the position, but once they come down here and the rubber hits the ground and they're really looking for someplace, they cannot afford it. They can't make that adjustment. It's hard for them to say, I can spend that much on a rental.
Karen Brown, president and CEO of the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce, says the price of land is going up across the county as the area grows in popularity.
Certainly there's plenty of stuff to buy if you're an investor and you're looking for a vacation home to invest in, or if you're looking to buy a home, there's plenty to buy. It's just the price point is not right for your average worker.
She says the lack of affordable housing is not only affecting teachers and healthcare workers, but most job sectors. She says some restaurants and retail shops have shut down because they struggled to recruit and retain enough employees.
With Airbnb coming into the area, that's taken away a lot of what used to be a year-round rental. Now people have said, I don't have to rent it year-round. I can rent it, for a shorter amount of time and still make the same amount or more money. So it's taking some of the product out of the inventory as well.
Many full-time workers who live in areas with a high cost of living find themselves eligible for housing subsidies that they would not qualify for in other parts of the state.
So housing eligibility revolves off of area median income. So we're sitting here in Wake County today, where the AMI, area median income, is approximately $96,000. A low-income housing tax credit development, if it's targeting 60% AMI, that is initial family income, which is making no more than $56,000. So who are we talking about? Teachers, police officers, firemen, other workers that are just working really hard, but need a break as it relates to occupancy costs.
But in Dare County, developers have not built many housing complexes geared towards those with low to moderate incomes.
Going forward, we're continuing now to start working with some of our private sector contractors and developers to see what they can do, because they are certainly interested. Some of them can't hire their contractors and their subcontractors for the same reasons, so it behooves them to, to try to help solve this problem as well.
In 2018, at the request of the Dare County Chamber of Commerce, county commissioners approved several zoning changes in an effort to address the critical shortage of affordable housing.
If you solve the housing problem, it will help some of the workforce issues that we have. We'll be able to hire a higher quality candidate, somebody who, will stick around and not just come and leave. Somebody with the skill set that we need in some of these jobs.
Employers in the Outer Banks are hopeful these changes will create more housing opportunities in the area. The hospital has no plans to create specific housing like the Teacher Housing Project, but they do have a network of employees willing to help new hires with finding a home they can afford.
Their commitment, once they take these jobs, and I know what they have to go through, sell the house in Ohio or Pennsylvania or New Jersey, find a house here, bring their family down, big commitment. And I am so grateful for them. I really am, because we have been very fortunate to hire some very talented people from all these cities up north, and they bring so much experience to us. So we're really blessed with that.
With us is Scott Farmer, Executive Director of the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. We're talking about affordable housing. Give some sense to the audience about how big the scope of this issue is in North Carolina.
Well, in North Carolina, it's a growing problem that we have and we're encountering. By recent studies, there's about 190,000 units shortage of affordable housing in North Carolina. Of that 190,000, that includes rental as well as home ownership. Those numbers are pre-hurricanes, so the number is actually growing as we speak with the loss of additional units.
Absolutely. And when we say affordable housing, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, generally folks think of affordable housing as those that are basically at or below 80% of the area median income. But in reality, it's really all folks that are making less than the average wage for those counties. So our programs, for example, serve primarily those below 80% of area median income. But we also, with our homeownership programs, we also serve households up to 140% of area median income as well.
And it's shocking to many North Carolinians to hear that some of the people who fall within that eligibility are our firefighters and law enforcement officers and our teachers. Is that right?
That's exactly right. When you think about it, you don't think of those folks falling into that category. We tend to want to think of affordable housing as being those at the lowest incomes. But it's really the school teachers, it's the firefighters, it's the civil servants, it's the folks that we work with each and every day that serve us in restaurants, they serve us in Walmart, in shopping centers, places like that. But they also are civil servants that we see each day in our government offices and in our office here.
And so someone's watching the show and they think that their community has a serious affordable housing issue. How do they reach out to this agency?
Sure, there's a number of ways. Most of our programs we operate through partners in our local communities. We can't do everything from Raleigh, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons that you see that our programs are so successful. Mm-hmm. So for our rehab programs, we operate those through local nonprofits, the council of governments, or the city and county governments. For our home ownership programs, we work with realtors and lenders who are out on the ground making those first-time home buyer mortgages. For our rental programs, that's operated more at the state level, and we work with for-profit and nonprofit developers who identify sites in different communities across the state that they think would be good for rental housing. They bring those applications to us, and then we assess their affordability and see if they meet the criteria for funding.
The State Employees Credit Union Foundation has worked with partnerships in several communities across the state to create affordable housing for teachers. Learn more about how your community can work together by visiting unctv.org/ncIMPACT. Next time on NCIMPACT.
You have to have that backbone of internet. It's probably the most important thing of a business.
Nearly 640,000 rural North Carolinians lack a strong broadband signal. NCIMPACT looks at 2 counties working to bridge the digital divide.
ncIMPACT is made possible by funding from Civic Federal Credit Union and is a public media North Carolina production in association with the University of North Carolina School of Government.